Hi, I'm Sabrina, and the claim I'm going to be refuting is by Chelsea, and it's video game violence creates hostility in American youth. And I'm just going to tell why she failed to prove that through her examples that were pretty much weak. Like, she didn't really go through with them. They weren't that thorough. So her first claim is that exposure to violent video games increases aggressive thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Her second claim is that children become desensitized to violence through repetition and rewards, which encourages real-life violence. And her third claim is that negative health effects of by playing video games. So through her first one, she gives a lot of like facts. Like, she says, Dr. David Walsh says 79% of American children now play computer games or video games, and she just tells you like how many hours per week they play. She turns that into weeks, months, years, and she just gives you an average on how long they would be playing video games. She also mentions that Elizabeth Carl says that exposure to violence in media such as movies, TV, and video games leads to excessive aggression behavior, but she doesn't really explain why. And so violent video games may be more harmful than violent television and movies because they're interactive. They're very engrossing, and they require the player to identify themselves as the aggressor. So through the violent video games, it's more of a reason why children would get like aggressive thoughts or emotion, because they have something to relate to, and it's more real than a television show or a movie. Also, Professor Anderson of Iowa State University found that students who played violent video games in junior high and high school engaged in more aggressive behavior, and they also got lower grades. What Chelsea also forgot to mention were the short-term and long-term effects of violent video game play. So the short-term ones are the situational variable causing an increase in aggressive cognition, affects, and arousal. So in short, the priming of aggressive thoughts. All of these will start a long-term effect. And the long-term effects, as of now, they're just hypothesized for this fairly new study, and no longitudinal data is yet available. But they're hypothesized, so they've yet to be proven wrong. So the effects of violent video games, through everything being studied so far, they influence minors by promoting. They promote the violence, which makes them want to do it. Her second claim is that children become desensitized through violence, through repetition and reward, which encourages real-life violence. And she gives another example from David Walsh, and he says repetition increases learning. After a while, violence is not such a big deal, and that video games are goal-orientated and award-based. So your main goal is to just take out as many people as you can, just nothing but destruction. That's all she really says. She doesn't really give examples for this, but I found a few examples. One, real-life violence, could be the Columbine high school massacres in 1999. They've been linked to violent video games as well. For the two students who executed the attack on the staff and student body of their high school were big fans of the video game Doom, a game in which the player views the game from the first point of view. So it's basically like you get the feeling that you're actually doing the killing. Psychologist Gerald Block believes that anger that was being projected into the games was now unleashed into the real world. In addition, the computer restrictions opened up a substantial amount of ideal time that would have otherwise gone towards their online activities. They increasingly use that time to express their anger, and their antisocial tendencies likewise increased. This, in turn, generated more restrictions. Finally, after being arrested and banned from their computers for about a month, the two teens became homicidal and began documenting plans to attack the school. So it's pretty much saying that as long as teens have the video games, they won't act on violence. So as long as they have it, no one will die. This issue, it even came up in Congress in 2005 by Senator Hillary Clinton. She spoke out against the increased violence and sexuality in video games. Clinton claimed that video games inspired violence and sexism in children, which led to the proposal of the Family Entertainment Protection Act. It was a bill she introduced, but it didn't become a law, and it eventually expired. But you know, video game violence is such a big deal that it got as far as to Congress, and it almost became a law. So that's something to think about. And the last one is negative health effects on playing video games. The only things she stated were an increased blood pressure and the effect of fight or flight muscles that are in the brain. But she didn't mention that it could also lead to carpal tunnel. It hasn't been proven that it can give you carpal tunnel, but it has shown instances where it's given things that can lead to carpal tunnel, such as tendinitis and bursitis. So, I mean, doctors have been saying that doing the same thing or movement over and over again is going to lead to your muscles having a negative effect. It won't use it only uses a certain part, so it won't use the whole muscle, so that's why you can get carpal tunnel. Also, besides carpal tunnel, kids can gain weight, strain eyesight, they become lazy, and if they're epileptic and they don't know it, they can have seizures due to exposure of the video games, which could lead to some serious damage if they don't get proper medical attention correctly. So overall, video game violence does create hostility in Americans' youth, and I believe that I proved it through further research and more concrete examples.
All right, Sabrina, I think you've missed the point of the refutation, because basically you just made a better argument than the advocate did. It's like if we were in a debate and she was the first affirmative speaker, you're coming up as her partner and saying, and let me show you how much stronger the argument is with better evidence, and adding to it. It would, you know, a refutation is a challenge to the argument being presented, not an evaluation or critique of the argument and a demonstration of how the argument could be better supported. The implication basically is that the resolution is not divided, the two of you. The proposition is not separating your positions, and in fact both of you are advocating the same position. It would be like if the defense attorney got up after the prosecution presented their case and said, hey, you think that's something? Here's a confession from my client. Handle that one. You know, and okay, you know, you shrug your shoulders and say, I'm sold. You've done a good job advancing better backing for the claim. I like the research that you've got, and you've got some good information, but you've kind of missed the point of the assignment. It's structured clearly, it's presented nicely, so you're doing okay from a speaking point of view, but that's a key issue that is really undermining the validity of the argument you're presenting. And I'm not you know, it'll be problematic if you don't switch that orientation for the debate that we do later on. All right, thank you.